Hi, my name is Yon, and this is Rescue Shot. This game is a PlayStation 1 light gun rail shooter released in the year 2000 that almost nobody talks about. Seriously, if you search this game on YouTube, you'll only find a handful of playthrough videos or an occasional review. But today, I want to talk about why I think this obscure game from my childhood deserves way more praise for being an incredibly innovative gem, especially in a genre that was extremely solved and formulaic. If you've ever been to an arcade, you've most likely played one of these games, the light gun rail shooter. Two of the most popular series include House of the Dead and Time Crisis. You'll quickly notice that this genre has a very distinct formula. And no, I'm not talking about their over-the-top, cheesy humor.
Stop right there! Oh my god!
Like, come on. There's 3 rules that almost every rail shooter follows. Number 1, shoot the bad guys. Number 2, don't shoot the good guys. And number 3, follow the instructions on the screen. These simple and easy to understand rules allowed anyone to quickly learn and start having fun right away. And this formula helped the genre become a staple at almost every arcade. But Rescue Shot flips this formula on its head, breaking these rules and combining the best parts of platforming, puzzle solving, and rail shooters. This approach made the game enjoyable for a wider range of players and delivered an extremely unique experience that you won't really find anywhere else. In this game, you won't be just playing as survivors in a zombie outbreak or special forces trying to save the world. Instead, your job is to look over this silly-looking rabbit named Bo, who has amnesia and is trying to collect these dream fragments to get his memories back. On this journey, you'll break the first rule of rail shooters: shoot the bad guys. In Rescue Shot, you won't be just shooting the enemies. You'll be blasting almost everything and anything, from mushrooms to flowers to even lamps. And shooting these background props will reward you with extra points and valuable items. But why would the game reward you for shooting things other than the enemies? I think this was an intentional choice from the developers Now Production, who wanted to create a non-violent rail shooter aimed at younger players. By intentionally keeping the environment react to your shots, the developers killed 3 birds with 1 stone. First, the game is now more forgiving to younger players who might accidentally miss the enemy target and end up shooting the background. Notice how in this section, the enemies are placed right next to these flowers, so even if you miss the enemy, you'll still end up hitting the flower and learn that these objects can be shot for some extra points. Second, these optional objectives create an extra challenge for more advanced players. This kind of opt-in difficulty lets 2 players with different skill levels have fun playing together. Third, the game world feels more vibrant and alive because it reacts to your actions. In rail shooters, the only way the player gets to interact with the game is by shooting things. So when you shoot an object and the game world reacts to your action, it creates a stronger sense of interactability and immersion. The second rule Rescue Shot breaks is don't shoot the good guys. In this game, you'll be shooting Bo, our main hero, a lot. But don't worry, your shots don't actually do any damage to Bo. At first, you might think that this is another design choice to just make the game easier. If players aren't punished for shooting the good guy, it's more forgiving, right? You'll quickly realize that this is not the case, and being able to shoot your main character actually creates really interesting gameplay. For example, shooting Bo's butt will make him jump up high in the air, while shooting his head will knock him over for a short time period. The levels are designed with this interaction in mind. Check out when you have to make Bo jump over these rolling logs, or when you have to knock him over so that he doesn't get hurt. The rule don't shoot the good guys turns into shoot the good guy, but at the right time. And in this way, the developers add a new layer of gameplay that players need to manage. You have to juggle both defeating enemies and keeping Bo safe. And this back and forth dynamic breaks up the monotony of traditional rail shooters where sometimes you're just mindlessly slaying hordes of enemies. The final rule Rescue Shot subverts is follow the instructions on the screen. Typically in rail shooters, the game will pause for a brief moment before flashing an instruction for the player to shoot at a specific area to achieve a certain result. But in Rescue Shot, there are almost no pauses or instructions on where to shoot or what to do. So how do you explain a new game mechanic to players without using words? Two ways: positioning and visual cues. Let's take a look at positioning first. In the first level, Bo walks by several big trees that, once shot, will drop a barrage of deadly acorns that can defeat a mob of enemies at once. But how do you teach this to a new player without any explicit instructions? Well, notice how the enemies are positioned to appear right in front of the trees. This increases the chance that a player will accidentally shoot the tree in the background while trying to shoot the bad guys in the foreground. And when they inevitably end up shooting the tree, bingo. Visual cues also help players discover the game mechanics for themselves. Here's a more subtle example. In the first phase of the Mafia boss fight, you have to shoot him directly to do damage. But in his second phase, the boss will deflect your bullets away with his sword. So how can you damage him now? Well, if you look carefully in the environment, you'll notice these yellow sign poles start to appear right when the second phase starts. By shooting the yellow pole to swing them around the back, bam, you can smack the boss's unguarded back. It's moments like these that make Rescue Shot feel like a blend of shooter and puzzle game, challenging you to look at the environment for new ways to defeat the enemies. Ultimately, these puzzles aren't overly complicated or difficult. They provide just enough challenge to make you think, while still keeping the moment-to-moment shooter gameplay fun and engaging. On top of these innovative rule-breaking ideas, the game takes a unique approach in both visuals and the music that makes it stand out among the crowd. In contrast to more gritty and realistic graphics of its time, Rescue Shot goes for a much more stylized art direction. Even the menu UI and the story exposition moments are stylized by drawing direct inspiration from Japanese paper theater, making kids feel right at home and adults feeling nostalgic of story time in grade school. And for the music, let me just say that this game features an incredible range of catchy melodies and diverse themes that you wouldn't expect, ranging from nice and calm to jazzy to creepy to an absolute hype banger. I mean, just take a listen. Despite all my praises, there's no doubt that Rescue Shot is an obscure game. It never reached worldwide success, and it was only released in Japan and Europe. There's even a funny story where Italian street vendors sold counterfeit copies of Rescue Shot disguised with the Pokemon cover art for PlayStation 1, tricking unsuspecting parents looking for Pokemon games for their kids. But I have a feeling that those Italian kids, just like me, who ended up with a copy of Rescue Shot at their home, experienced a one-of-a-kind game in their childhood. It's the kind of game that comes out of left field, breaking all traditional rules, marching proudly to his own drum and being absolutely unapologetic about his unique style that clearly sets it apart from the competitors. And by the time the credits start rolling, one thing is absolutely clear. To most of the world, Rescue Shot may be a forgotten relic of the past, but to the lucky few of us, it's an unforgettable experience that remains etched in our minds all these years later. Thanks for watching.